I was teaching a psychology class and I was behind a one-way mirror, and the students started to talk about, it was a free discussion. I was observing, and they started to talk about a number of the women had been raped. And I suddenly got really hot and feverish, and I ran into the hall and passed out cold. I fell down. I looked up, all the students were around me. I got rushed to the hospital, and they thought I had a tumor in a very intimate place. They immediately put me in surgery. And while I was lying there, I looked up I sort of woke up and looked at the surgical lights, which was odd because my eyes were taped closed. And then I thought, this is odd that I can see. And I sat up, which was strange because my body was on the table. And I looked around and I watched them operating on me. And they said, there's no tumor, it's just blood. This is scar tissue from old trauma. And then I lay back and I thought, I don't know what's happening to me. And between the surgical lights, another light appeared. And it was about the size of a golf ball when I first saw it. And, they say we can only see about 1/trillionth of the available light spectrum. And I think this light had all of it. You can't describe it. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. It was absolutely captivating. And as I looked at it, it grew, and it seemed to sort of penetrate things instead of bouncing off them. And when it touched me, this incredible warmth. I mean, talk about going from 12 years of chronic pain, a lot of psychological suffering, to no suffering, zero, absolute joy, beauty, warmth, physical, emotional, every kind of warmth you can imagine, and laughter. There was so much joy in this light. And I was laughing with it. And I heard the surgeons say to the anesthesiologist, she's crying. And I'd started crying from happiness. And they could see tears coming out. And they thought that I could feel the pain. So the anesthesiologist was going to give me more medication. And I talked to him the next day to make sure it wasn't a drug event. And he said that a voice had told him, don't increase the anesthesia. She's crying because she's happy. And he said, did I do the wrong thing? That never happened to me before. So that was odd. Anyway, basically the light was saying to me, you totally bought this whole thing about you're just a physical thing and then you die. And I was like, I know. I said I wasn't going to forget. And then I totally forgot. And we were laughing and laughing and laughing. And then it said, look, you're going to go through something really horrible. But I'm always here. I'm right here. I've always been here. I always will be. And I woke up in the recovery room, and there was this guy who was there from the prison on some sort of work detail, and he was mopping the floor in this room where I woke up. And I looked at him and I said, I love you so much.
He's like, I'm not even getting paid for this.
He went to get the nurses. Yeah. And I was just, I was like, do people cry? And they said, yes, surgery is traumatic. And I'm like, no, do they cry because they're happy? And they were like,
what?
Not really. So, yeah, the next day, the big thing was I'm never doing anything that makes me feel separated from that light. Not ever. And lying was the first thing to go. And that's still, to this day, one of the weird things about experiences like that is they don't fade. It's always right there with you in every choice you make. And that's what gave me the ability to do everything else.
All right. I've quite a few follow-up questions. So thank you for sharing that. The broadest question is, what do you make of that experience? The other, you can tackle these in whichever order, but did you talk to the surgeon and other personnel about what you observed them saying?
The surgeon came in and was oddly tender with me. I mean, really, really tender. And I think the reason was that what had happened was I was bleeding internally from a lot of scar tissue that had happened when I was sexually abused very young. And they knew that that's that some kind of violence must have caused that. So they said, yeah, we don't really understand why you suddenly started bleeding internally, but it was putting pressure and we just had to drain the wound and leave it open. And so that's what I said, do you know anything about the anesthesia? They went and got the anesthesiologist and he came back and I started just quizzing him. So what did you give me? What are the effects? What do people report? What are the side effects? Can I have some more? And finally he just said, look, just tell me what happened in there because this thing happened to me. And that's when he told me about the voice telling him, don't give her more anesthesia. And I said, yeah, you did the right thing. And he said, you know how many times this has happened to me in 33 years of medical practice? I said, no. And he said, once. And then he kissed me on the forehead and left and wrote me a letter later about it. So he said it was not a drug effect. Plus he had a woo-woo experience as well. So take that.
Got it. So what do you make of that experience?
I have been making of it. I started meditating and thinking about it, and I think about it every single day, and it's been many years since then. And what I make of it right now, it's kind of like the path of not there, don't know mind. I believe in the Zen or any Buddhist concept of don't know mind, that in the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities. In the expert's mind, there are few. And that none of us really knows anything. And in particular, we have no idea what consciousness is. I've studied physics, I've studied philosophy, theology. Nobody has a clue what consciousness is. Even one neurologist said nobody even knows what it would be like to have an idea about what consciousness is. And so what I make of it now is that consciousness is the primary reality of the universe. And I do believe in the Copenhagen version of quantum mechanics, the observation of consciousness is making what is merely energetic appear physical. And I believe that everything is full of consciousness and that light was a representation of consciousness. But I also believe that this glass is a representation of consciousness and that you are and that a tree is and that a rock is. Everything is brimming with that light. My son, actually, 19 years after they told me he was going to ruin my life, we were going home from the funeral of his friend's mother, his best friend's mother. She died, and it was horrible. And he said, Mom, I didn't cry at the funeral. And I said, yeah, but you can cry. Strong men cry when things are sad, and this is sad. And he said, and this is a kid who barely talks. He said, well, it's not so bad once the light comes and opens your heart. And I said, what? A light came and opened your heart? And he said, I said, well, when did this happen? He said, May 10th. This was in February. And I was like, so what happened? So he told me he was in his room. He was having a struggle. He was 13 years old. This was years before. And a light appeared in his room and touched him. And he said, it told him, you can do this. And I said, well, I've seen that light too. And he looked at me like, wow, I didn't think you had it in you. And I said, and it told me that it's always with us, even though we can't see it. And he said, oh, I can see it. And I said, you can? He said, yeah. I said, like right now? Of course. He was like, yes. I said, well, where is it? Is it like up there? Is it down here? Is it in your heart? And he just shook his head at me and he said, Mom, it's everywhere. That's the world I live in.
All right. So I feel like you and I are probably going to have quite a few conversations.
Ooh, I hope so.